Welcome to my podcast. This is Mary Turderoff, and you are listening to Jump In with Mary.
Hi.
Hello. Welcome, listeners. Today, I have my beautiful friend, Megan Lunz, and she has some really fun stories for us. She is a mom of 3 beautiful children, a kick-ass woman, a supportive wife, and we're going to get into all her adventures. They speak for themselves. But the first one we're starting with is she's going to dispel the stereotype people have a one-night stand. She's had the most romantic one-night stand in history.
I have.
Okay.
Let's call it my forever one-night stand.
True that be. So what happened is, let me give you the headliner. She married her one-night stand, who also happens to be a great friend of mine and my husband's. He's a wonderful man, but we're going to rewind. You don't get off the hook that easy. Okay, I want you to tell me everything. So you were on the job. So you're bartending.
I'm bartending, yes. I am bartending, and a girlfriend of mine sends in some friends that she knew and said, go hang out at this bar until I get off of work. And so, yeah, the guys came in together in town, San Diego, for a Chargers-Bengals game, and we just kind of started chit-chatting. I was working, and then he said, do you want to go out tonight when you get off? And I said, sure, why not? I had just pretty recently gotten out of a relationship. I was a little bit older. I was 24. I was 24 when we met, so I had been in relationships and was kind of just looking to kind of let my hair down and have some fun.
Great. Wait, so did your friend, was she trying to set you up, or this just
No,
really happened?
she didn't really know him. She had known one of his friends.
Okay.
And so she had met him. They were in town for like a bachelorette party or for a bachelor party in San Diego. And she was the concierge service at one of the hotels. So she had met him. And when they came down the next time, they had kept in contact. And so she knew that this guy was coming, which happens to be my husband's friend.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
But, you were in the bartending industry. Is it common for men to pick up on bartenders?
I would say, yeah. I mean, that was 15 years ago. So, I mean, I'm sure it's still the same way today. But yeah, I would say that it's a common thing. But yeah, I mean, depending on the bartender, I don't know how many people are acting on that. I didn't. I knew that my girlfriend was sending in some people that she knew. So it wasn't just a random walk into the bar.
Right. Not a rando yet. It's still a little risky. Okay, so you go out, sparks are flying. Is everyone drunk?
Yep. Pretty much by the time we got there, yes, we had been. I had went home after work, showered, got ready, kind of secretively packed an overnight bag just in case, but didn't really know where I'd end up.
Okay, pause. Secretively, wait, what do you mean? Okay, so you get off work, this guy
So my
has hit on you.
girlfriend that was working at the hotel, when she got off and I got off, we knew that they had wanted to hang out that night. So we went home and took showers and got ready for the evening. It was a Saturday night. And I knew I was going back downtown. I was downtown San Diego. So I knew I was going back down there. So I threw some clothes in a bag just in case. Didn't know where the night was going to take me, if I was going to end up at my girlfriend's house or where. So had that in my car. And then, I went back down there and met up with the guys. There were a few of them. And we went out and had a great time. And yes, hit up some bars.
But did the connection between you and Ethan, Ethan is her husband now, who he was the one-night stand.
Yeah.
Did the sparks fly when they came and you were like actually on the job, or did it develop later on in the evening?
I would say there was interest from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, from the beginning. I mean, there was definitely, we
locked eyes.
Yeah. We locked eyes and knew, okay, like this would be fun to go out later. And then as the night progressed, yeah.
Perfect. So you run home. Obviously, you had some gut feeling. You run home, you throw in, whatever, a thong or something, and some lingerie.
Yeah. No, it was not. It was not that extravagant. It was not that romantic.
I mean, you said you packed a duffel bag.
Just, for the next morning, some overnight clothes. I don't know.
I imagine a duffel bag you open, it's just like a toothbrush.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't, let's be honest, it wasn't a lot. So.
Okay. So you throw in the bag, you guys head up to meet with them.
Yeah.
Okay, fast forward. So you go home with him. It turns out to be wonderful down the
Yeah.
line. But like in that moment, for us ladies who have not been as adventurous as you,
Mhm.
is the thought when women go into it like the expectation of, okay, this is really super fun, but when I wake up in the morning, we're going to talk about the morning,
Yeah.
play by play. Is it like, okay, I wake up and I'm planning on walking out, like that's cool. What was your thought process?
I mean, I don't know. I'd never done it before, so I didn't really have a plan. I didn't really know much about it.
No plan, but you had a duffel bag.
But I had a bag, but that could have been to stay the night at my girlfriend's house. I didn't know she lived downtown as well. They were staying at a hotel, so I didn't know what was going to happen. So,
But you wake up and you're next to a man you
yeah,
hardly
so you
know.
wake up in the morning, yeah, and he was getting ready to get up and head to the Chargers-Bengals game Sunday morning. So
he was up before you?
it was kind of like we were just up and yeah, I think he got ready and we just moseyed down to the lobby where he had a car waiting to go to the Chargers game. And I was waiting for my car in valet. So just kind of there we were. And then he looked over at me and asked me for my phone number. And I was like, oh,
Wait.
okay.
You went too fast, girl. Okay. So you wake up, he's already awake. He's like kind of gotten the morning started.
Yep.
Is it awkward? Are you like covering your,
No.
privates and running to the restroom? Like
No, it wasn't awkward at all. It's totally fine.
you're just like,
Gets
good morning.
up, yeah, gets up,
Got
gets ready.
Coffee?
Yeah.
Do you like
No, I don't remember getting coffee.
okay.
It was pretty up and go.
Up and go. So you go downstairs
Yep.
together.
Yep.
You're standing, waiting each for your separate cars.
Yes.
And
Well, this is actually a really funny little tidbit is that
Spill. That's what we're here for. Spill it.
while I'm waiting for my car and we're standing there together, there's this other guy that I don't know at all. And he looks at me and he goes, "Hey, weren't you my bartender from yesterday?"
Oh my.
And Ethan looks at me and he's like, and I was just like, oh boy, I feel like my cover was blown. I never saw that kid again or that guy, whatever. I mean, but it was a pretty at that moment was like, oh geez, talk about
That's
your
funny.
head down. So
Well, it didn't stop Ethan from.
yeah, so he still asked me for my phone number.
So he looks over and casually says, "Hey,
Yeah.
can
Can
I have
your number?
And it sounds like you were kind of caught off guard. You're like, okay.
Yeah, because it was an awesome night. I was going into it very open-minded, like, hey, if he asked me for my number, great. If not, not. But he did.
Okay. So your relationship started in reverse in many ways because most women really milk it. They
Yep.
try to get wined and dined and, they really drag along the guy a little
Yeah.
bit and then they give it up.
Yeah.
So what was it like actually starting to date? Because
Yeah.
it's a different setup. Was it
Totally.
like the romanticism built up or how would
Yeah,
you
I
describe
would say
it?
the romanticism built up for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I know there's always that saying, why buy the cow when you get the milk for free? This was, like you said, a little reverse.
He bought it.
But he ended up buying the cow.
The most beautiful
Yeah,
woman ever. Come on.
But yeah, it definitely grew from there. And we also did long distance for a long time. So we started dating and he lived in LA. I was in San Diego. So we would, try almost every weekend to meet up with each other. I was working in the bar. He would come down. So we did that for a good almost a year and a half before we got engaged.
Mm.
So there was a long dating period there.
What is the advantage of having sex with somebody really before you date them? And I asked this with something in mind, which is a lot of people start to date a lot of women and then they get more intimate and they realize, oh, there's no chemistry, intimately speaking, right?
Yeah.
So yours was the reverse. So it's very
Yeah.
interesting. Like, what are the advantages of you kind of, went for it like day one, okay, we're one night stand, there's obviously chemistry. So did it help kind of just relax the tone and you're actually getting to know each other?
Yeah. I feel like we just kind of put it all out there and it was, it ended up working out great. And like you said, you could then build from there rather than the nervousness of the unknown.
Mm.
There's a lot of people that would wait till they're married or whatnot. I already hadn't. So it didn't, it wasn't as important to me to do that. Yeah. So I think that you kind of you already have that part done.
I love your story because I grew up in a Armenian culture, and actually many cultures have this, where you really are expected to engage in intercourse when you're married,
Mhm.
and it's frowned upon otherwise. And there is a romanticism about it, allegedly, that you saving yourself is so romantic, and it actually makes things better. And I don't know that that's true.
Yeah.
So I love your story because it debunks this storyline that exists for a lot of
Totally.
cultures.
And I feel like as time, I mean, as you know, a lot has changed. Every day is, there's new of what's acceptable in our culture. I feel like all the time. So not that there's not right or wrong of what to do. It's just whatever you believe and whatever, is in your heart, I feel like. And yeah, there's no right or wrong to it. And look, I mean, here I am.
Here you
Our
are.
anniversary is next weekend, 12 years and 3 beautiful children. And
Hell to the yeah.
living a great life.
And you know what? I know that it's not all hot air because I actually know both of you.
Yeah.
And you guys are really a awesome couple. So
Thanks.
what a good story.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit. I was like mentioning culturally, what's your background?
So my background is I'm Italian and Portuguese. But I was born and raised in San Diego. Grew up with a lot of Italian heritage and traditions. Not so much the Portuguese. Kind of found that out later on down the road in life.
Like in an online test or something?
Pretty much. Yeah. When you kind of realize that your dad's father, who was your grandfather, is actually not his biological father.
Oh,
so
Jesus.
you think you're all of this, and then you're not. And there's 23andMe, and
oh my
so
gosh.
yeah. So
Okay.
there's a lot of that going on. But yeah, mainly was raised Italian.
Okay.
Um,
And Italians are like Armenians, Mamma mia. They are not, they're like the old Italian grannies. They're not like go have a one night stand, right?
Yeah. No.
Okay. So your grandma
that
wouldn't.
wouldn't. No. Are you kidding me? Hopefully my grandma doesn't have
I hope your grandma,
internet.
I hope your grandma's not listening, doesn't have internet connection.
Yeah.
I bet she's on Facebook and Instagram.
No, actually going back to that, it's funny you bring that up because I'm actually a family of 5. We had 5 living generations up until just about 3 years ago.
Wow.
So my family all got married at very young ages. My great grandma, my grandmother, my mom. I was 24, 25 when I got married.
Oh, wait.
No, I was 24 when I met Ethan. I was 27 when I got married.
I was going to say, you
Yeah,
have a
so
one
I
night
was
stand
later.
at 24.
No,
You get married
yeah.
3 years later.
Yes.
Okay.
So I was 27 when we got married.
Was that considered, like for me I was 23 when I got married, and they were
That's
like,
young. That's young. But
yeah. For our generation,
back-
it's considered young.
for our generation, that's very young.
I
but
agree.
for our parents, that was like, oh my gosh, you're going to be an old maid. I mean, my mom was done having 3 children by the time she was 25.
I cannot believe. Isn't that mind blowing?
Yeah.
So you were 27 when you got married.
It's 27 when I got married.
And was family getting a little uncomfortable? Like you're late, you're old, or no? You didn't feel that?
No, I felt like it was still
ripe.
young enough. Yeah, especially because we started dating when I was 24. So, you knew that we were in a serious relationship and marriage was coming.
Okay.
Kind of thing.
Yes.
So it wasn't they weren't too hard on me.
Good.
But yeah, definitely younger. All of my grandparents all were young when they got married and had children. And my grandparents are they've been married 67 years.
That's so beautiful.
Maybe 65, 67 years. So a long time. So yeah, lots of family
You have
around and
a big supportive family. So
yeah.
when you were talking about like your very Italian-like family,
Yes.
shall we call it, you are now introducing them to your now husband, Ethan, who you had the one-night stand with, and then they're asking, how did you guys meet? I'm guessing you didn't give them a rundown of the story.
No, just at the bar.
At the bar.
Yeah. No need to talk about what happened later. Yeah. We met at the bar. He came in. Yeah.
And that's that. Okay.
And that's that.
That's what I would have done.
Yeah.
Of course.
I mean, I don't really think it's something you go around being like, hey.
Right. Unless you're on
we
a
hooked up
podcast.
the first, and then everyone's going to know. Yeah.
It's okay because you guys are going on like 2 decades of marriage. So now it's a fun story.
Yeah.
But at the
Totally.
time, for
Yes,
sure.
that wasn't something that you really want to.
Yeah, but I hope
shout
you
from
know
the
we're airing this
rooftops.
podcast.
Oh, I know.
Okay, good. You read my consent form, right?
I did. I signed
freaking
away
send that shit to you.
hesitantly.
Yes. I send you 2 reminders. I'm like, girl, you better sign this because we're talking about all your dirty, dirty secrets and Ethan's dirty secrets.
Oh, geez.
Very fun story. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah,
I love that
course.
story because it is romantic, and
It definitely was.
It's
It has not
romantic.
lost the romanticism and
Yes.
the building for a healthy, strong relationship.
For sure. And I also love stories that are outside of the box and break the mold. And there's a stereotype about one night stands, and it doesn't always have to be like that. So that's
Yep.
why it's a cool story.
Yes.
Okay, let's switch it up a little bit and talk about, so you are a mom of 3,
Mhm.
and we have had discussions in the past of, this transition, which is hard. Like you have kids, 3's a lot. It's like a circus. And you want to go back to your professional life, but you're also like mindful and rational that full-time 12-hour job is not going to work. So you say, okay, maybe I will go into part-time. And then you get into part-time
Mhm.
and you realize part-time eventually becomes full-time.
Yep.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Walk me through it. So you had baby number 1, 2, 3, and then you dabbled into part-time? Like, I want to know about your journey.
Yeah. So after college, I was bartending. I'd met Ethan. I moved to LA. We were getting married. And then,
Were you still bartending when you got married?
yes, but in LA, not in San Diego anymore. I moved up to LA once we got engaged.
Okay.
So I was still bartending, planning the wedding. I had just graduated college because I did a very long college path. I did not go straight out of high school. I went to community college, paid my way through school, bartended, worked, went to San Diego State, ended up graduating from there. I had met Ethan in my senior year. So it was a long road. It wasn't just boom, I'm 21 out of college.
Right.
So with that being said, I never really got going in a career. We ended up having a baby. I dabbled around in some finance, but I didn't have like a strong career background by the time I started having children.
And how old were you when Jagger, your first, was born? 29?
I was 28.
28?
28.
Okay.
Yes, because I had my second when I was 30. So yeah,
Got
I was
it.
28.
27 married, 28 first baby. Okay. So
Mhm.
baby number 1 comes along and you said something about finance. You were dabbling.
Yeah, I was working in some finance at a company, but it was more just kind of like a friend worked there. So I would go a few days a week. It was never like a
Right.
hired on career path. So
Why'd you do that then? Is it to get a piece of yourself back?
no, it was more just I was
Bored?
pregnant and I had been done bartending and I wasn't really doing much. So I was kind of like, oh, well, this is something
Interesting.
that, And I was pregnant already. So like I said, I wasn't behind the bar anymore.
Right, right.
So I was just kind of doing that and then had the baby and I just stayed. I mean, that was kind of something that was important to my husband and important to myself was that I was fortunate enough to be able to stay home and take care of the kids.
Yes, which is a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. Fortunate enough is a good point. Yet, we're like innately meant to do other things as well. So there's this feeling of like, okay, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see why you wanted to kind of go into this finance world, although that wasn't maybe your like passion to be like, I just want to try something. Something outside of
just kind of
this.
keep myself busy, I guess you
Yes.
could say, until the baby came. So yeah, I ended up staying home, and then when my first was 9 months old, we got pregnant with the second one. So it just kind of all
is a tight schedule.
yeah.
That
so
was
it all-
back to
Well,
back.
that was you too.
My first one, I waited 4.5 years after my first one because I thought,
Oh, okay.
this is fucking insanity. And I thought, that's it. I'm done. One and done.
Yep.
So I have to,
Yeah.
I have to say we're different
Okay.
because you were on board.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm done.
Well, that wasn't a necessarily planned timing, but it happened. So that's fine. And it was good. And I was already in the thick of it. So might as well throw another one on. So I did it opposite of you because you waited, then you knocked out 2 in a row. I knocked out my 2 and then waited.
Ooh, forgive me. That's my little phone. Okay. Yes, we had opposite schedules.
Yep.
So you knocked out 2.
And then waited 3 years.
So like you have your kids, your first 2 were so close in age. You couldn't honestly just me having been in the thick of it too,
Yeah.
it sounds impossible to even dabble into anything at that point. You're
Yeah.
up to your neck in children.
Yeah, that was not a thought process. That was
Okay.
not. And it was also something where I wasn't set in a career, so I wasn't going back to anything.
Right.
Financially, it didn't make sense for us to have a nanny
Right. Because you get
for
full-time
the
nanny.
two little
Yeah.
ones. And
Yeah.
it was just important to us for me to stay home and raise them.
I love it.
Yeah.
So super noble, beautiful. But at some point, something shifts, right? They get older and you're like, okay, I need to individuate.
Yeah.
So when did the interior design project come in? Was it between second and third child?
Oh, no. This was just recently. This was once all three
Okay.
kids were in school.
Okay. So
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have the third child. Okay, let's
still
jump
at
into that.
home. Yep,
Okay.
still at home, all three of them. And how I got into kind of working again part-time was one of my very dear girlfriends started an interior design company. And she was getting very, very busy. And she knew that I was kind of just around. Kids are in school. So she was like, hey, do you want to come on and help me run the operations? Just make sure everything gets where it needs to be. Things are ordered, this, that. I was like, absolutely. But just beware. I will not be doing any design because it's not my forte.
And also, I remember when we chatted about it, you were saying like you were very clear. And of course, everyone around you knows you have 3 kids, that you are looking for part-time, that you have to work within the parameters of school pickup, drop off, right? So that's how you went into like, I'm doing this part-time.
Yep.
I'm not here 12 hours.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's continue with the story because that's not how it actually.
Yeah. So did
mapped
that, just started doing it, got really busy. And next thing you know, one thing's leading to the next. And it's time for school pickup at 2:30. And I'm calling my husband like, hey, can you get the kids today? I'm still here. I'm home at 5:30. Which typically would be totally fine. But then he started picking up with work and wasn't as flexible and not able to help out in that aspect. And so it just kind of got to the point where that was my first priority, was making sure that I was available to be there for the kids. Especially they're getting older and they're not going to always want me around and picking them up from school and doing that stuff and taking them to their sports. So we just kind of made the decision that it was time for me to not do that anymore.
Right. And I think that's interesting because there's no more like clocking in and clocking out anymore.
No.
It like even I had felt the same, like maybe I can do a very office-y job 9 to 2, which is part-time, but nothing is really 9 to like it doesn't work that way, right?
No.
If you get a call at 1:55 and it's urgent for a job, you can't just walk out.
No.
But you're also getting like, I'm sure you experienced this. I was trying to do part-time, but then I was getting calls from the school. So now you got to pick up that call. One of them is sick. You got to delegate with grandparents. And like half the time you're at this part-time job, you're delegating to make sure they get picked up on time.
Yeah.
It's kind of a clusterfuck.
Yeah. I would say so. Yeah.
Right? Or I don't know how else would you describe it?
Yeah, no, for sure.
And so I think of, I was talking to one of my dear friends who's a full-on, full-time career woman and a full-time mom, attorney. And I was
so she doesn't have help like in place, because I feel like most women that are full-time working have full-time nannies that stuff is taken care of.
Right. Some, not all. Her kids are over 10 still. Like you're an attorney 12 hours a day, 8 to 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're an attorney. You got to really not screw around. And she's there. And then the kids are and I'm thinking, I don't know how it's humanly possible because
I don't know
your list of to-dos doesn't change. It actually, some people have said it's worse than it was in the 50s because now you're working 10 to 12 hours a day and you have to do whatever you had to do anyways.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it just gets tacked on.
Yep.
So it's a bit of a conundrum. I don't know that anybody has the answer. I don't think you and I do, but it's like what you said. You try part-time and you're like,
yep.
Is there such a thing as a part-time job? This is going to bleed into full-time. And can I manage that?
Yeah. And I do see myself eventually. I mean, my youngest is 5. So I do see myself in the next few years, hopefully finding something that I'm passionate about that I can take on and, give it my all and do that where I'm not as worried about the timing of things. But right now I'm just so in the thick of it with summertime. I mean, I can't leave my kids home by themselves. So, you can't really find a job where it's, hey, I guess if I worked for the school district or something like that, where it was like you dropped off and picked up, but that's not something. I'd be interested in.
Yeah, neither would I. Oh my gosh. I
I
would
just
not.
stay far away from that.
Agreed. I don't want to hear any children noise
Yeah.
in the daytime, but God bless teachers and staff that does that.
Yes, absolutely.
How do you, with 3 kids in the middle, there's always a lot of noise. And even when you're like doing things as a family,
Mhm.
it's hard to communicate one-on-one with your spouse because the 3 kids are chiming in, all 3 kids. And how do you make space and time? You've been married over a decade. It's been a
Mhm.
minute,
Yeah.
and we mature, the flame dies down. It's just natural.
Yeah.
How do you keep the marital unit tight? Like, I'm not talking about lust because that's unrealistic.
Yeah.
How do you keep the bond tight and the friendship and partnership going? How do you make space for each other without all the noise of the 3 in the middle?
I would say definitely making sure that you're aware of that and making an effort to do it. Absolutely. Communication is huge for us, just always being in contact with each other and knowing what's going on for the day, especially with the kids too. Like the last thing I want from my partner is to have him not know that tonight is open house at school that starts at 5:30. Like just having stuff on the calendar, making sure that we're in tight communication, setting aside that time for each other to go on date nights. We're lucky now that sometimes we'll catch while they're at school. We'll go on a day date. We'll ride our bikes to the beach and go
I love
grab
that.
lunch. We've been doing a lot of walks on the Strand in the morning once the kids are off to school, if the schedule allows for it. So just finding time like that. It's not necessarily always at nighttime doing date nights because that's a little unrealistic for us at the moment with sports pickups and drop-offs. I mean, we're Uber drivers at this point. So there's, just constantly every day is something. So I'd say we're lucky enough right now that during the day we're able to find that time to do that.
Yes. But you're like carving out the time for it. It
Yes.
doesn't just happen by
No.
itself.
No, yeah,
Like,
it's carving out the time. And I think enjoying each other's company makes it a lot easier. So it's like if you know that, I don't have anything going on this morning and you know that your appointment was canceled, the first thing my husband's going to do is be like, hey, do you want to go for a walk or do you want to go grab lunch or something because we enjoy each other's company?
I love that.
So, yeah.
I love that. I'm a big proponent of therapy and it has changed the course of my life in so many positive ways. Do you guys believe in couples therapy? Has that been something that has like given you tools and skill set to re-navigate and rediscover your own marriage? Because 10 plus years is a long time. Things
Yeah.
change. The
Yeah.
dynamic changes.
Absolutely.
Or is it more just like you guys amongst yourselves work on things?
At this point, it's us amongst ourselves. There is no doubt that therapy is not something that we would absolutely consider. I mean, I know that it can only help. And so I would say we would be open to that if we got to a point where I feel like it was necessary. But we haven't had to cross that bridge yet. And I also know that there also isn't always a bridge to cross. Sometimes it's just, let's do it just to help, just to be better.
Yes.
So I'm not like against that by any means. My daughter is in therapy and
my son too. I love it. I love it.
She is thriving from it. We call it her one-on-one, like everything's about you, being a middle child. Like she can struggle sometimes. So it's like every Friday you get your one-on-one time.
What a clever way to put it, Meg.
It's all about you. Whatever you want to do. If you want to talk, if you don't, if you know.
It's the you show.
It's the you show.
And who doesn't love
with
that?
an unbiased opinion. So
yes, a
you
very
get to go do
highly
that every
paid,
week. Yeah.
highly paid, unbiased opinion. $300 an hour, but
clearly I couldn't cut it. So you know what? Here we are.
Let's talk about that. I love that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Because again, talk about stigmas, like therapy is
Totally.
Oh my God, I love it. So my son, he goes to this wonderful place. It's a whole building dedicated to therapy for children.
Yeah.
Like there's floors and floors. Anyways, so at first I was a little worried being an adult. I shouldn't have been worried about like, how do we present this to him and the community? Like, I don't want him to say, I'm seeing a therapist.
Yeah.
It was more about me, right? I was working through that stigma. And then I had worked myself up and the therapist very kindly and sweetly said, it's not a big deal. I will tell him, hey, I'm your feelings teacher. And you know how you go to school and you have a history teacher and a math teacher? Well, I'm going to teach you how to work through your feelings. So I'm a feelings teacher. And that was such a pivotal, honestly, for me.
Oh, totally.
Because she was like, it was almost deconstructing my belief system and to
Mhm.
let go of all the judgment, the culture.
For
And
sure.
I was like, and I needed to kind of work up the courage to tell my family that my son is in
I was in the
therapy.
same it's the same exact I think it's the older generation, it's the same exact thing, like, when I told my mom, like, I was I had a meeting with a therapist for my daughter, and she was like, "Well, why?"
Yeah,
And I'm like, "Well, why not? Why
right.
wouldn't I give her the tools to help if she needs them?" Like, I mean, I don't understand why we wouldn't do
It's
that.
like it's if you break it down, it's a verbal conversation with a specialized educated
Yeah,
person.
that's what they
That's
do.
what it is, right? It's not like the kids getting prescribed pills. Like I didn't say that, but it
No.
feels like the image that a lot of people get is
Yeah.
you ended up in a psychiatric ward with your child, God forbid.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's awful, but I've had to. It's been me telling other people was a bigger part of the
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
so
And my daughter's therapist, I actually when I met with her before even sending my daughter, we went over exactly what you're just talking about, how to position it to her. How to explain what she's doing and where she's going. I don't even think she knows that it's a therapist.
so
I
what
don't
does she
even think she
call it?
knows the name. Yeah, her feelings counselor or
I
like
love
her
it.
feelings specialist. But we don't even really call it that. I just always say, "Oh, Sydney can't do this today because she has an appointment."
Right.
I don't get into it with people, but she never says she doesn't want to go. And I do my meetups as well, my husband and I. And I think at a young age for the children, it's all about the therapist also teaching us how to help the child.
Yes.
It's not just the child going there and speaking about what's going on in their life, it's how we can help them, which is really important.
100%.
And if you're not willing to put in the work to do that, it's not going to happen. It's not going to change.
Right. And it's going to surface
Mhm.
in adult or teenage
Yeah.
life. I mean, we've all seen it. We've all
Yeah.
grown up in family dynamics.
Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
so right. I love that, Meg. I felt the same. Like she's teaching me more or teaching my inner
Absolutely.
child because
Yeah.
it's like, what will anyone think? Well, it doesn't really, it's not a big deal. It's just a
Huh?
word and a label. You're right. It can
And
be
look,
called
you talk
specialist.
about it, and then guess what? People are like, oh, that's interesting. Like, they'll start reaching out. Oh, who are you going to? I found out through a friend of who she was openly honest about her daughter going. And I was like, oh, we had some behavioral issues and stuff. And I'm like, maybe I should help her a little bit and look into this, you know? And sure enough, I mean, they're like booked out.
So booked out. A lot of therapists, their panels are closed. I know
Yeah.
ours is. We're so
Yeah, they don't
lucky.
take new. Yep.
And says a lot.
Yeah.
Yet there is an underground stigmatized world that is still there
It is.
where
I would
we
agree.
are grown-ass women.
Yep.
And I didn't even know I'm
Yeah.
learning this about you today.
Yeah.
We are both grown-ass women. And we were like intimidated or just kind of reluctant to
Yep.
tell our moms. And it's like I felt that at the same time. I'm like, this is ludicrous. Like I cannot
Yeah.
believe I can't just say, Mom, he's in therapy.
Yeah.
Like
Big
whatever.
whoop-de-doo.
But it took
You
me some
act like
time.
it's such a bad thing. I mean, last time I checked, it's to help.
So okay, let's go back to so you're on the phone, you tell your mom, and you hold your breath, and she says, why? And how do you navigate that conversation the first
I think
time?
just educating. I think just educating them on, this isn't a bad thing. There's nothing wrong. It's just to help control feelings. And, obviously there were some things that had happened that were red flags to me with my daughter where I was like, you know what? I can tell that you're harboring things on the inside by what you're saying. And there's no reason to feel that way.
Mm,
So when I explained that to my mom, this is a safe place to go and get her 1 hour of her time with,
I love it.
who she's with. And
I
so,
love it.
I mean, it's been a few months now and it's,
Is it
it's
helping?
not even, yeah.
Isn't
it's
it great?
It's great.
And
It's
they usually
helping.
love going.
Yeah. She has no problem going. I mean, she goes, she gets to make slime. A lot of times they'll have them work through it doing crafts so that it's like, sometimes it opens up their mind a little bit more and their willingness to want to talk about things. So she comes home with all these things she made and
It's play-based.
It's great. It's play-based.
It's play-based. And it's
They're not sitting in a sterile room,
like getting
looking
hypnotized.
at each other. No, it's great. They have all the things, swings and things make them feel comfortable.
I know, it's so true. It's funny when my son started, he was like, when we told him it's a feelings teacher, he came in the car one day and he said, I really don't understand how Miss Hannah's a teacher. And I said, what do you mean? Why? Like, because I'm not in the sessions.
Yeah, no, me neither.
Right. So I just kind of wait in the car. And he said, I said, why? Why would you ask me that? And he said, well, because my teachers at school are so boring and she's so fun. Can I have like an extra hour with her each time? I was like, extra hours, $300.
Honey, that's not going to happen.
We can't pay $6. But it was so cute and very telling that it's working. And he was just, and it's funny, he was telling me this isn't working because he's like, I'm having a lot of fun in there. Therefore, she's supposed to be a teacher. She's not doing her job because we're having too much fun.
That's cute.
I said, exactly, kid.
Yep,
exactly.
Exactly. That's awesome.
But that's so cool that you did that for her. I want to like bring in a funny story. We're sharing like us having to break it to our mom, our family. So I tried something really interesting after I worked up the courage to be like, it is okay. I need to flip the script. So I'm going to speak up. So a few times I said, oh, he's going to his feelings teacher. And my mom was like, what is a feelings teacher? And I couldn't say like therapy. And then she was like, oh. And then in the moment, I did a little bit of reverse psychology, probably just for me to get the courage to say. And I was like, well, I'm like, you don't have your own therapist? She was like, no. Why? I'm like, you don't? Like everybody has a therapist. She's like, really? Like, yeah, I have one. We all have one. And it kind of made it a little fun. Like, she was confused.
She's like, well, shoot, maybe I need one.
I confused her out of talk. Like, great, we don't have to talk about this anymore because she's not really confused. She's like panicking.
She's like, maybe I'm doing something wrong.
She's like, does everybody have a therapist? I'm like, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so moral of the story is if you don't have the courage to tell your mom as a grown-ass adult, just use your reverse psychology and it so works.
Hey, like we do when they're little, right?
Exactly.
You just flip the script.
No, but I mean, all jokes aside, it really was a moment that was about me. Yeah. And I realized like, like how everyone's a mirror image of what you're experiencing, that I need to get over this. I'm having this feeling too about, oh my God, no.
And the stigma behind
whatever.
It. It's like, you know what?
It's a beautiful process.
It's a beautiful process and it's great. And hey, it can only help. It's not going to hurt.
Have you seen her use like the tools? Has it manifested yet?
I'm not sure about that because I really don't know. As you know, I don't have a lot of, I go once every 4 to 6 weeks for like a catch-up session, but it's not really talked about with me what goes on there.
Okay, tell our listeners a little bit who haven't tried therapy for their kids.
Yeah.
Like walk us through what it's like. So you schedule a session and you touch base. Give us some info.
So I basically reached out because, there were just some behavioral things, more saying things negative about herself. That I was like, that's not.
Like critical self-talk.
Yeah, like here's an example. I don't belong in this family. I don't look like you guys because she is our middle child that's blonde-haired, blue-eyed. She's always heard that her whole life. She doesn't look like me.
Which is funny because, my middle child.
Yes, same thing.
It doesn't look like any of us.
So I think it's just when people joke about it, you would never imagine that it sets in.
Because it's not us.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
So it was one of those things. So I started to realize, okay, she's starting to get down about herself. We're at a pivotal age where it's like, you got to build that confidence and trust in yourself. So I was like, okay, I'm going to reach out. So I did and had a long conversation, an hour conversation. And she was like, absolutely. Like, I think it's important that we schedule. So anyways, went through with it and, broke it to my daughter that she was going to be going to, and she was, I positioned it correctly after my hour-long conversation.
Okay, so slow down. So for the listeners, so first step for a mom or dad who's interested in this process is reaching out and finding a professional therapist.
Yes.
So you don't talk to the child.
And they came very highly recommended.
Okay.
This specific one. So just doing your research to find one.
Okay. And you set up a consultation.
Yep. I reached out immediately via email and just said what I was interested in. And she got back to me and set up a call. Yep.
So you set up a call as a parent. And then the next step is you book for your child and you do in person.
Yep. And I took her there and, introduced her, and I was prepped on kind of how to tell her what it was that she was going to be doing and who it was, just the feeling specialist. And, it's 1 hour of individual attention just for you to talk about what you want to talk about, do whatever you want to do.
What a beautiful way to present it. And was there resistance?
I think it wasn't resistance, it was nervousness.
Nervousness
Yeah,
to
she
meet
was
like
very
someone
nervous.
new.
Yeah. So I went with her, walked her in, introduced her. I checked out the facility. I hadn't seen it yet.
Oh.
I went in with her the first time for the first 10 minutes.
Okay,
And
so
then,
first
yep,
session, you, mom or dad sits
yep,
in
yep.
for 10 minutes.
Just for them to get to know each other a little bit.
Okay.
Talk a little bit about themselves.
And then you kind of like slowly mosey on out?
Yeah, I wasn't even there 10 minutes and it was like, okay, bye, mom.
So they jived
Yep.
immediately. Okay.
Yeah, so it was great. And then I came back an hour later and picked her up and it was fine. She's not really one to get in the car and be like, oh, we talked about X, Y, and Z.
Same. That's my experience.
Yeah.
But I don't probe. I'm
Me
kind of
neither.
okay.
Because that's why she's there, is I don't want to probe. Or sometimes I'll prep her when I know that she's had a hard week at school, either academically or with a friend circle. She's a 9-year-old little girl that it's, friends are doing this and that and being mean or doing this. So sometimes if I know she's had a tough week, I'll say, hey, maybe today, when you go in, you can talk a little bit about how you could handle this situation.
Love it.
Or something like that.
And then you release it, right?
And then I release her and she either will get back in and tell me, volunteer, some information, or she doesn't say a word about it.
For sure.
And it's like on to the next week. So.
And Meg, I don't take it like personally. I don't even ask him because she had told me, our amazing, amazing therapist, Miss Hannah, had told me, you need to really recognize that when I'm in this room with him, my first job is to make sure he feels a connection and then trusts me.
Yeah.
So I'm building the relationship with him.
Mm-hmm.
So when I thought of it that way, when he got in the car, it's kind of like when you get him from school. How's your day? Da, da, da.
Yeah.
Did you see so-and-so? How was the field trip? I actually started doing the opposite.
Oh, yeah.
I just changed the subject and I let him know that is your special relationship with Miss Hannah.
And they are only going to talk to you if there's something, if there's something that's like a red flag that you need to know, really.
Right. Oh, you mean the
therapist to
okay.
you. Like, I don't know.
So let's get into that.
Yeah.
Okay. So then she has the sessions and you mentioned every 6 weeks.
About every 4 to 6 weeks.
4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
You set up an appointment for yourself with the therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And that is designated to what? Is she debriefing you? Are you asking questions or is it an open free-for-all?
It's an open free-for-all. To be honest with you, my husband and I both do it at the same time with her.
What do you mean? You log on at the same time?
Yeah. We'll do a Zoom with the three of us or we'll go in, but usually schedules are too hectic that we don't go in. But the last couple times it's like she's not really going to say much to me unless there's something that's very important, which I feel like she would reach out. So to do those sessions aren't as important as they thought they were. I mean, you're still paying the same amount
for
your hour.
Right.
And it's kind of like.
Yeah. So you don't always there's not a lot to be debriefed on unless there's a crisis. Yeah. That's what I felt too.
So for us right now, what we're dealing with, I would say more is like academically, like maybe being able to focus in school. And she has a lot of tools to be able to help us with like outside evaluations, I would say.
What does that mean? I don't understand.
With, being able, she has connections or recommendations, referrals to people.
For testing? For academic testing. Okay.
For ADD, stuff like that. Because a lot of the times it can be not focusing at school, rushing through things, stuff like that. So when we talk, it's more of her giving us those resources to act on.
Got it.
It's not more of what Sydney is going through at that point.
Right. Because it's important to notice it's a very slow transition, even for adults when they're in therapy. Like I thought, we're gonna get in the car and there's gonna be an explosive topic every week.
Yeah.
So I can see why there is nothing really to talk about every month even.
Yeah.
They're just developing the bond privately.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really great because I don't want to be in a situation when he's a teenager at 15 and like I can't imagine how hard it is to drag a 15-year-old. Here's someone you'd go talk, you're having a crisis.
Yep.
It takes time to build that, for them to trust someone
100%
and rely on them.
So to start early, I think is just, and children, when they start going through puberty and middle school and this and that, things only get worse.
Have you guys started the puberty thing?
No.
Okay, we haven't either. All right,
No.
well, we'll have to talk about that in part two.
Well, I mean,
we have no experience.
We have had the talk with our oldest. Dad did, and that was a little, I think we thought he knew more than he knew.
Uh-oh.
And then Dad kind of went into the whole thing, and he was like,
oh my God. What?
Yeah, because
so
they
you traumatized
comments. They, it's
like they don't even know what they're saying.
They don't know what they're saying. But then I was like, well, shoot, I wanted to hear it from us rather than hearsay from other kids. So that was.
So how did you realize he doesn't know what's going? Like he just looked
the
shocked.
minute my husband started talking to him about the actual like scientific part of it, he was like, "Dad, like, didn't really know."
Well, Dad did not read
does
the
know
room.
now.
Dad is a really smart.
I left it up to Dad in the car driving.
Oh, in the car. So this was not like we're sitting down. It was like
it was the two of them headed to a sports tournament, so they had some time to kill in the car. And I was like, if you get a chance, maybe like feel it out. He obviously didn't feel it out. He just dove
He just
right
went
in.
for it. I hope he didn't like do any hand gesture demonstrations. So
I really hope not. Well, that was the thing is we had seen my son do a gesture before, a hand gesture. And so it was
they're just mimicking things they've seen.
Yeah. So I was like, well, shoot, maybe he does know something. He didn't.
Okay, well, keep me posted on how that unravels. Well, for the girls, I'm guessing you're going to be the one. You have one son and two daughters.
Yep.
So the girls, I'm guessing you're going to be. Okay.
Which, you know, they already, I feel like kids talk so much.
Yeah.
More so than when we were younger and things they see. You don't know what every child has access to on the internet and stuff. So it's like, I feel like now it's even sooner than later that you want to kind of build that trust with them. Like, hey, come to me if you have any questions.
Right. For sure. You guys are a really open, full of communication family. I love that. I love that. Well, we could talk forever and ever and ever, but I want to just wrap it up and end with a good topic, I think, which is how we can individuate as women. And I have witnessed you individuate. Like, I love you always have your girlfriend circles. I feel like and that's an effort too. That is a built effort that takes years to develop.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Like, you do have this family, your family of 5. So there's 4 other people in your house. It's a loud, chaotic, wonderful home. But you're also Megan. Like, you're not one of those women who I've seen, like, you haven't lost yourself in that. You are still you. Let's talk about that. Like, I know you're going on a 40th really hot and raunchy birthday. I don't know if it's hot and raunchy. I'm making that shit up. But it's a 40th birthday. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of strippers.
I mean, if we're going to be in Cabo, we got, you know, I don't know what's going to happen. A bunch of middle-aged moms, you know, all of us moms.
A lot of margaritas.
For 3 nights with some margies, I think just, you know, trying to make time, once again, just like for my husband, but with my girlfriends. And, you know, I mean, I absolutely I could, but I definitely have aspects of my life that are not on hold, but that have slowed down a lot as far as hobbies go, which is fine. I'm here for it. I've got, you know, all the time in the world once I have it. It's not going to go anywhere. So,
but with that said, you've really maintained a beautiful identity through your social life. Like, you tend to your friends. Like, we had done a wellness retreat together. Pre-COVID. So in that sense, I feel like you've honored it.
Yeah, and that was amazing. I would love to do another one of those.
Yes. How fun was that?
You've done one
in the
since,
desert,
haven't you?
I have, and I am going to Arizona for a wellness retreat. This month. It's Miraval. The hotel is Miraval, and they
so you're doing like a bougie nice.
Well, okay. Well, yeah, it is bougie. I'm going to get a foot massage.
You're going to be doing all the things, but that's going to be amazing.
It is. And
ours was a little different than that.
Yes, ours is a little more.
But it was an awesome first
rugged
intro.
Girl, rugged. But it's really funny, like when people ask now that you kind of called me out on my shit. Thank you, Megan, for calling me out on my podcast.
Yeah, Mary's going on a bougie.
I was hoping you didn't know where Miraval was. But that's why I love you. No, but like my husband and my friend's husband, I'm going with a friend. Like, oh, what is this? And so we really watered it down.
Yeah,
like,
you did.
Oh, you know, it's a lot of yoga and stretching, and we're just gonna sit in a corner and meditate. And they're like, and we're gonna help. You know, and then they said, what's the point? Well, we're gonna, you know, find out what our spirit animal is. And they're like, why would you? Who cares who your spirit animal is?
You're going to really dig deep.
I left out that, 120-minute massage. God. But anyways, I just discovered this place. Have you been?
No.
The website was
amazing. And I've heard about it, and I've known people that have gone, but I've never been.
Okay.
But I would love to go on something like that.
Well, coming soon, I'm going to post that journey.
Yeah.
And I'm going to climb a tree. There's some tree climbing thing where you're tied up.
Oh, like a ropes course?
Is that what it's? Okay,
yeah, the ropes course.
I just checked. They give you a calendar because it's
like
connected
conquering
to
your fears.
Yes.
It's a whole digging deep, Mary. You're going to get it. You're going to
I'm going to go so deep, Megan. I may never come back.
Especially at a place like that, you're not coming back.
Yes. So, oh my gosh,
That's
thank you
funny.
so much. I love that we're ending on this because we did have a special wellness journey as part of our friendship journey
Yeah.
pre-COVID. We've known each other pre-children.
Yes. It's been a long
And
time now.
yeah, and our friendship is
amazing.
unique because we are friends and our husbands are great friends. We're both
And our kids. We
and our
get to
kids.
go on vacations together and have
Yes.
great times.
Yes, and
Which we're due for another one.
we are way due, and I love you on so many levels.
Oh,
Thank you for
thank
being my
you.
friend. Thank you for
Thank
being a
you.
guest on this podcast,
Of course.
for hanging it all out there.
Yeah, nice that you're going to air all my
And
dirty
whether
laundry.
you regret it or not, you signed the consent form. Well, I
True.
love you. I love
love
you so
you.
much. And thank you for being here today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Let's hug it out.
Okay.
Dear listeners, if you like what you heard, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple, and follow me on my journey on Instagram and YouTube. Until next time.